My photographs are different from me. The photographs are a record of what's been happening in front of me. It's not something I've constructed. If I'm able to give a voice for that situation, then I've achieved my objective. And that's really important to me as an individual, but also as a photographer. I love Bangkok for exactly the same reasons I hate it. I love it for its noise, I love it for its intensity, sweatiness, and there's always some Trevor-troge in Bangkok. And for all those reasons, it just drives me bonkers sometimes and I have to leave. But every place in the world must drive people crazy and happy at the same time. My name is Patrick Brown, I'm a photographer. I've been based in Thailand for the last 12 years. And yeah, this is home for me for a while. สวัสดีครับสบายดีไหมครับส้มตำสองเลยส้มตำสองไม่เผ็ดฝรั่งเผ็ดนะ เอาฝรั่งเผ็ด I've travelled all my life since I was about 5. Originally from England, from Sheffield. Grew up in the Middle East, I spent some time in South Africa, and I spent some time in Canada, and finally the family settled in Australia when I was 13. I'm still doing what I did when I was a young boy. I'm still travelling, still meeting interesting people. I think photography for me was the best visa I've ever had in my life. I've been with racing car drivers, I've been with homeless, I've been with drug addicts, I've been with politicians, I've been with royalty. It's one of the best vehicles to move in and out of societies that normally wouldn't be able to navigate your way through. It's my car that I rebuilt when I was 18. Modelled on an old English car. It took me about 3 months to rebuild it, maybe even a bit longer actually. I'm trained as a tool maker, which is somebody that makes machines and stuff. I really enjoy working with my hands, and I like the craft of photography. Not just taking the photograph or the equipment, but actually I like to produce a photograph. I like to go in the darkroom. I find the darkroom very therapeutic. Just dodging between the light and making a photograph darker or lighter here, and it's hand printed. You can never make another print exactly the same. And I find that really adorable. I was incredibly naive about what documentary photography could do. I was working in a multi-storey car park, and I saw a little snippet about this guy in the local rag, and he was in Africa, and he was the only surgeon for 2.5 million people. So I sold my car and my surfboard, and went over there and documented him, and I was there for 6 weeks. 6 weeks is all I could get off from work, and then came back to Australia, had an exhibition. It raised a lot of money for his name is Robert Whedon. We had awareness for him in Australia, and then it was published in Australia and it won a couple of awards. It was one of the pivotal points when I realised you could actually make a difference with a photograph. And it wasn't until about 96, 98 that I made a decision I could actually make money from this, and then started to do more and more work with magazines in Australia. This is all animal trade, by the way, full of animal stuff. As you can see, everything's under alphabetical order. Only I know where to find it. A colleague convinced me, just get out of Australia and come to Asia. Have a look around. If you don't like it, you can move on. And I ended up in Chiang Mai and met some Burmese refugees. They gave me access to places I would never be able to get to, and opened up a whole world to me that I really didn't know existed to the extent that it did, and that was the Burmese border. This is on the Thai-Burma border, and they're macaques. And then you've got actually real tiger teeth here and tiger claws. And these are different tiger teeth, and they have a different value where they come from. These are used as potency or protective elements regarding the person that wears them. They have amulets on them or into keychains and things like that. Trading to Extinction, I started working on it in 2002. This is my first solo book, and I had no idea what the animal trade was about. For me, the animal trade was little trinkets selling in shops at that stage. And most of the world thought, I think in some way thought the same. 4 years ago, the statistic was $52 billion annually. That's what the animal trade is worth, which rivals some of the biggest electronic industries. One of my favourite statistics from this whole project is that there's more Bengali tigers in Texas than there is in the Bay of Bengal. It's a huge industry, and I would be still working on this until probably the day I die. So it had to be some physicality of boundaries placed. Southeast Asia was the spot, and plus I live here, it made it quite logical. This is patrolling in southern Cambodia in a place called Bokor. That was really quite an amazing trip, that one. The first story I did was anti-poaching team in Bokor. And this anti-poaching team, we'd go in on a night insursion and we would hunt down or trace down the poaching team. And most of the guys in the actual anti-poaching team are actually ex-poachers, because there's nothing better than a poacher. To catch a poacher, he knows his routine, he knows his habits. They were about to plan to do a night insursion, which I have to say is one of the scariest things to do, because you're in total darkness and you can only just see the person in front of you. And the way your eyes work, the centre of your retina is actually damaged from the amount of sun it's had, but the peripheral is, so you have to look out of the corner of your eye. So you're walking with your eye, so you can, that's the most sensitive part of your eye. It was a pretty intense trip, that one. This is a poacher that's been caught, and that's his name, his age, and the crime, and where it was, and the date, obviously. And they did it to all the poachers that they captured. I have quite a lot of empathy for the poachers. Majority of the poachers are just doing what their ancestors have done, which is hunt. The Cambodian poachers that I went with, I think they got $10 or $15 for each monkey. Very, very little money. They have very, very little knowledge of where that product's going to go. There we go. This is pretty much what I'll be taking. So take my 4 cameras, my Polaroid, the Rolleiflex and the 2 Nikons, and 3 lenses really, and my film bag. Well, I've come to Guangzhou from Bangkok. Guangzhou is close to the Hong Kong border. It's southwest China. It's the economic powerhouse for this region. It's very close to Xinjiang, which is the manufacturing powerhouse of China. Due to the wealth of the manufacturing of Xinjiang and the money that's come into this area, this has always been a fruitful place for animal trafficking. What I'm hoping to achieve is to see where we are 5 years down the track. It's a 10-year project, so where was I halfway through this project? I was here the last time. It's good to come back and relive it and see where we are. And what I'm hoping to find is that things maybe have moved on. I don't think the trade has in any way dwindled. I think it's just, they've just got smarter about hiding it. They're not as confident as they used to be. They know these things do get out into the world outside China. So they're a bit more paranoid about people with cameras. I never ask permission. I just get in there, and I know I've got a very short window of opportunity to get the pictures. As soon as you start to ask for permission, people are not going to be themselves. And a few times I push it and I push it. If somebody's stopping me from taking pictures or tries to stop me from taking pictures, I push it even further, because there's a reason why this person is trying to stop me, because he knows they're doing something wrong. So I'm trying to get, the hardest thing in a photograph is capturing an emotion. So if I'm able to capture this angry person trying to stop me from taking pictures, it also adds another little dimension to the body of work. We went to one pet shop which specialised in selling fish. One fish in this particular shop was, I think it was worth about $10,000. The people who owned the shop, they openly talks about how he smuggled the fish in from Australia and he smuggled them in from the Philippines. And
This is from US?
US? So that's an American fish in China.
Okay, they can make sure that... Yeah, they don't really have a legal channel to help you ship it back to the Australia.
Okay, so
he just confessed to me that a lot of fish are smuggled in.
he did.
Yeah.
These guys are untouchable. It's just not on the radar of the law enforcement officers. It's not important enough for them. Everything in the market isn't endangered, no. That's where that grey zone of the wildlife trade comfortably sits in. And we'll use the crocodile as an example. 2,500 tonnes of live animals go through Heathrow a day. You'll have a shipment of, say, 25, 30 crocodiles. So the custom guys at Heathrow, he's looking for contraband, he's looking for drugs, but he's not a reptile expert. So he counts 30 crocodiles, ticks it off, yep, move on. In that 30, they could be 10 very, very endangered crocodiles. Guangzhou is also very famous for its wild game restaurants. But one of the most common things is you can go choose your alligator, choose your crocodile. And this particular restaurant is just out there in the open. It's got its snout bound. And guests, that's the first thing they see when they walk into the restaurant is a crocodile. I want that crocodile to be chopped up and I want it for my dinner. That's all you have to say and it'll be done. With the animal trade, with the consumption of animals, it's more to do with you are what you eat. So you consume a piece of the tiger, you'll inherit a part of that tiger and you become more virile and stronger and you'll fight off a cold or you'll beat the arthritis. Most of the animal is consumed in some form or manner or used to develop a cream or a soup or a tea or something like that. We went to Safari World, which is about 40 minutes outside the centre of Guangzhou. It's just a huge entertainment complex for families and it revolves around animals. There is a circus and there is a zoo and I do agree with them. Yeah, they're very educational and you need those institutions, but realistically an elephant in a zoo is a prisoner. They've got X amount of space and they know that X amount of space like the back of their hand. Zoos make a lot of money. They're a great money earner. And the rarer the animal you have or the rarer collection of animals you have, the more people are going to go see them. Some zoos are legitimate and some zoos aren't. And the majority of zoos in this part of the world are not so legitimate. When we went to Safari World, they have flamencos in restaurants so people can have a nice steak and watch a pink flamenco, which is obviously not native to Asia. Then in another restaurant you have the white tiger restaurant where you can sit down and have your meal and watch probably one of the most endangered tigers in the world walk around while you have your meal. And supposedly, I mean, that in this particular institution it has 50% of the world's population of white tigers. That's something wrong there. I'm not an animal activist. It's more about exposing the subcultures in society. The animals is not really the story. What's happening to the animals is the story. And that cause is actually these subcultures of smugglers and poachers and customers. That's what I'm interested in. My career as a photographer in the last 10 years is being focused around the animal trade. I've spent every little penny I've earned has gone back into this project. And one of the biggest discussions I had with publishers was that it was in black and white. If I'd shot this in colour, I think I would have had no problems, it would have been printed straight away. But for some unknown reason, because it's in black and white, it scares people away financially. The reason I shot it in black and white was a really simple reason. I really understand black and white film. I dream in black and white, I don't dream in colour. So on a subconscious level, I think black and white is more of a powerful tool to let people delve more into their subconsciousness to actually get a bit more of a sense of placement. They let their imagination go a little bit further than they would do if they were looking at a colour photograph. For me, it really tells a story in a much more clearer sense. We visited the Guangzhou medicine market, which is a very famous institution. It's pretty wacky. You see a lot of crazy things there, from seahorses, geckos drying on the street, turtles, a multitude of different creatures for sale and parts of different creatures. What drives the industry is naivety and greed. Naivety in the sense of lack of education regarding what the health benefits from some of these products do. Rhino horn is one of the classics. It's, if you consume a rhino horn, mythology believes that you'll be able to mate for 2 or 3 hours. It doesn't work, but it's very porous. So one of the tricks of the trade is to soak the rhino horn actually in the Viagra. So that drives the trade as well. It's all this naivety. And it works because it's soaked in Viagra.
A bag of deer embryos.
A few hundred years ago, people would be invited to a wedding and just the immediate family would have shark fin soup and guests would stand around in awe that they were able to eat shark fin soup. It was a very sought after delicacy. Now the wedding parties have grown to 300 or 400 people and they all have shark fin soup. When you look at the shark fins, you see the bags and hundreds of bags of this stuff. And 3 fins basically means one shark. It's just a staggering amount of sharks that have died for something that's basically cartilage and doesn't taste of anything. Well, we're in the medicine market in Guangzhou. This guy in a blue tracksuit comes up to me while I'm taking pictures and he's trying to sell me some bear bile products. He was a little bit uncomfortable with the Chinese watching him and watching the deal go down. So we get him aside and we go talk about it. He said he bought it off some guy who was either from Tibet or from Nepal, and he'd got a customs official on the border to get it into China, and he's gone to Guangzhou, which travelling thousands of kilometres to sell two items shows you how much of a hub Guangzhou is. After 9/11, there was a big push to find out who are the people who are generating income for the terrorists and the smuggling routes. And it wasn't until Congress decided to put a lot of funding into that. Once it was researched, it pretty much took everybody by surprise how big the animal trade was.
What about just there?
He wants to keep the camera out. Well, it attracts a crowd. Understandable. He's doing something that's illegal. We'll just stand in there and the camera will stay out here. Okay. We'll just stand in there so the camera doesn't come. 10 years in the project, I've never had somebody literally come up to me and want to do the deal there and then, and totally blasé about it all. He saw me as an opportunity to try and make a quick dollar. He wanted $1,000, basically, for a very small amount of bear bile.
Okay, thank you.
This is The last trip for the animal trade. This is it. I'm 43 years old. I've been doing this for just under a quarter of my life. A few months from now, people will be holding a book in their hands. And it will no longer be my book, it'll be their book. I always knew I would get to this stage, but now I'm here, it's kind of weird, but it doesn't actually feel like it's really happening. It's 10 years in the making, and it's going to where I initially thought it would always go. It's quite a nice feeling, actually, I have to say.